My beloved sons and daughters in Christ, there are moments in history when the world seems to pause, as if time itself is holding its breath, waiting for something greater to break through. In these rare instances, the constant noise that surrounds us, the endless chatter, the rushing schedules, the unceasing pressure to move forward, fades just enough for a deeper truth to become visible. This is not a simple moment, nor a fleeting opportunity to reflect. It is a crossroads. Right now, as you hear these words, you stand at the edge of a decision that will echo far beyond your personal life. What lies before you is not casual advice, nor is it mild guidance. It is a warning, urgent and weighty, impossible to ignore. In a world that celebrates innovation, speed, and relentless progress, appearances can be deceiving. Beneath the surface, things are quietly unraveling. Restlessness spreads silently through hearts and minds, pulling people in countless directions. Truth, once steadfast, is now treated as optional, reshaped according to convenience. Life speeds onward, voices grow louder, distractions multiply, yet few pause to ask the essential question, where is all of this leading? And more crucially, what happens if we are mistaken? Amid the clamor, a different voice speaks, not with shouts, nor anger, nor condemnation, but with the unmistakable tone of a mother's love, steady, unyielding, and piercing in its clarity. This voice sees the path ahead, recognizes the dangers, and refuses to remain silent while her children wander unknowingly toward harm. It is a voice born from love, not for control, but for protection. It calls attention to what is at stake, warning not for fear, but for preservation. History is filled with this pattern. Warnings emerge, and yet many turn away. Society convinces itself that all is well, hearts harden, and the consequences quietly creep closer. Even now, mercy remains. There is still time, but it is finite. There is no space for further delay or postponement. Excuses lose their hold in this moment. Every individual is invited to respond, and the choice cannot be deferred indefinitely. The urgency of this time goes beyond worldly deadlines or pressures. It strikes at the core of the human soul. Time itself seems to narrow as history approaches a decisive point. Many, however, continue living as if nothing has changed, unaware that the window of grace will not remain open forever. The notion of a final call is not designed to frighten, but to awaken, to clarify reality, and to remind us that lost opportunities rarely return. All generations have received warnings. Initially subtle, then unmistakable, they rarely carry the immediacy required to spur action. What makes this moment exceptional is not simply the clarity of the message, but the shrinking opportunity to act. Humanity has cultivated a dangerous habit of delaying what truly matters, convincing itself that tomorrow will provide a chance that today does not. Yet believing in an assured tomorrow erodes our ability to act now. This is not a call to panic, but to awareness, to remove illusions and confront the reality of where life is heading. Most people do not descend into darkness suddenly. They drift quietly, distracted and neglectful, ignoring what they know to be right. The final call arrives when drifting is no longer possible without consequences. To be warned is an act of mercy, an opportunity to grasp what is still salvageable. Ignorance, indifference, and delay are far more dangerous than the warning itself, for they allow drift to continue unchecked, deepening the distance from truth and from purpose. This urgency is not meant to overwhelm or break you. It is meant to awaken, to pull you out of complacency and draw you back to what truly matters. The world offers countless distractions, endless reasons to delay, voices insisting that nothing requires immediate attention. But these diversions test more than patience. They test humility, focus, and willingness to face reality as it truly is. The challenge lies not in danger alone, but in the subtle blindness that has taken hold of the soul, a blindness that convinces people they understand, that they are aware, informed, and even enlightened. Yet the drift continues, almost imperceptibly, as comfort and convenience slowly replace conviction and clarity. Truth becomes negotiable. What was once clearly right or wrong blurs. Even the simplest truths are questioned or dismissed. The illusion of progress deceives, presenting confusion as advancement. Noise surrounds every moment, endless information streaming in, yet it only keeps hearts busy, entertained, and disconnected from what gives life meaning. At the center of this fog is distance from truth, not truth itself, but the kind that corrects, challenges, and calls for change. Easy lies feel comforting, but they weaken the soul. And slowly, reality is reshaped to fit desires, creating a version of life that feels safe, yet is hollow. Outward appearances may remain stable, even successful, yet internally, emptiness grows. Nothing external, no achievement, position, or possession can fill the void left when the soul drifts from its purpose. Many attempt temporary solutions to mask this emptiness, only deepening the problem. Once a distorted view of reality is adopted, it is defended fiercely. Even truth is rejected if it threatens the illusion of control. The gap widens not just between people and reality, but between people and the very source of truth. A mother's warning carries a unique weight. It is sincere, unwavering, pure love, focused solely on the well-being and safety of her children. It is not enforced by authority or obligation, but by care that refuses to remain silent. Indifference does not provoke immediate anger. It provokes sorrow, a heavy, quiet sorrow that recognizes danger before others do, feeling what others refuse to acknowledge. This sorrow stems from clarity, not weakness. A mother sees peril long before it manifests. She speaks to protect, not to dominate. Yet one of her deepest pains is watching those she loves ignore her guidance, believing themselves safer than they are. Her love persists, even in the face of resistance. It does not weaken or disappear. It grows more determined because true love cannot remain silent in the presence of danger. It is persistent, sometimes uncomfortable, even challenging because it confronts what must be faced. This is mercy, not cruelty. It embodies repeated effort, patience, and hope. The message is restated not because it changes, but because hope remains. Hope that one day the message will be heard, that hearts will awaken, and that lives can be redirected toward what is real. Yet every repeated warning carries cost. Time passes, opportunity narrows. The tone shifts, not gentler, but urgent. What was once a soft concern becomes a clear plea. Danger has arrived. It is no longer merely approaching. The message must penetrate distractions, reaching those who are willing to hear. History reveals a pattern. Warnings ignored lead inevitably to consequences. The signs are never hidden. Clarity exists. What falters is human response. Ignoring warnings initially seems harmless, theoretical, belonging to the future, yet delay accumulates unseen. Consequences unfold gradually, quietly reshaping hearts and lives. Sensitivity fades, hesitation diminishes, and what was once clearly wrong becomes accepted. Awareness erodes. The ability to recognize truth weakens, desire to seek it diminishes, and eventually one may not even realize what has been lost. This does not affect only individuals. Groups ignoring truth destabilize society itself. Disorder grows, trust weakens, confusion spreads, foundations crumble, relationships strain, stability erodes. The consequences of delay extend beyond personal life. They affect the very fabric of the world. One of the most dangerous illusions is believing that time will always allow correction later. People tell themselves they will respond when circumstances demand it, that action can be postponed until the moment feels urgent enough. Yet this way of thinking overlooks a vital truth. The longer one delays, the more deeply entrenched habits become. Patterns strengthen, comfort with the familiar takes hold, and turning away from those patterns grows increasingly difficult. This is not because the path back is closed, but because the will to act diminishes over time. When consequences finally surface, they often feel overwhelming, not unfair, but inevitable. the result of a long, silent accumulation. What could have been addressed easily now requires far greater effort. In some cases, the chance to avoid consequences entirely has already passed. This is why warnings matter, not to instill fear, but to prevent a point where inaction becomes too costly. Even in the midst of urgency, confusion, and the slow weight of consequence, there remains a gift, something unchangeable, an invitation. After all that has been said, after the repeated warnings, the growing awareness, the narrowing of time, there still stands a quiet call. It does not force, compel, or impose. It does not remove freedom or dictate choices. It simply invites steadily, persistently, and powerfully to awaken, to see clearly, and to choose differently. This invitation is perhaps the most profound aspect of all. No matter how far one has drifted, no matter how long truth has been ignored, the possibility of returning remains. It does not erase past mistakes, nor pretend the situation is simple, but it offers a way forward, a path back to clarity, purpose, and the essence of what was lost. True awakening demands honesty. It calls for stepping out of noise, ignoring distractions, and facing life as it truly is, not as imagined, not as portrayed to others, but as it stands in reality. Many hesitate here, not from inability, but because it requires humility. Admitting that something is wrong, that the direction being followed may lead astray, is uncomfortable, yet this very discomfort marks the beginning of transformation. Without clarity, nothing changes. With clarity, everything becomes possible. Turning back is often misunderstood. Some believe it to be restrictive, heavy, or filled with guilt. In truth, it is liberation. It is walking away from what drains the soul and moving toward what restores it. It is rejecting the notion that past mistakes must define the future. Each step, however small, weakens the hold of what seemed impossible to overcome, while simultaneously strengthening the ability to choose rightly. Moving forward with intention restores what has been weakened, not automatically, but deliberately through conscious choice. Yet this deliberate choice cannot wait indefinitely. Delay allows internal resistance to grow, familiar patterns solidify, and what once felt simple becomes increasingly daunting. This is why the invitation carries urgency not as pressure, but as clarity. The present moment is the threshold of change. Waiting for ideal conditions, a more convenient time, or perfect alignment is an illusion. The present is what is given, and what is done with it shapes everything that follows. At its heart, this invitation is mercy, extended not because it is earned, but because it is essential. It remains open despite repeated ignoring, distractions, and refusals to respond. Still, urgency accompanies it because time moves relentlessly. Opportunities cannot be stored for later. What is offered now is decisive a moment with the potential for restoration, renewal, and alignment with truth. Responding aligns a life with purpose, reconnects the heart to what matters, and reclaims what has been lost. Choosing not to respond is never neutral. Inaction allows patterns to continue, drift to widen, and distance from truth to grow. Over time, reversing this trajectory becomes far more difficult. The invitation matters because it stands at the center of all preceding messages. Urgency, warnings, blindness, consequences, they converge here at this moment of choice. The question is simple yet profound. Will you continue unchanged, or will you turn back while time still allows? There comes a moment in every life when the weight of everything heard, ignored, or delayed settles in. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, steadily, until it can no longer be pushed aside. Distractions lose their grip, the usual noise no longer comforts, and the truths once avoided stand clearly in front of the heart. Decisions are no longer theoretical, they are unavoidable. For a long time, it is easy to imagine life continuing uninterrupted, to believe that choices made today can always be corrected tomorrow. But eventually the realization emerges. Every decision carries direction, and every delay shapes the path. Moments of inaction are never neutral. They are movement, often toward a place that is not intended or desired. Life never waits. It moves forward, and with it, the consequences of choices travel alongside. This is the weight of the present moment, understanding that what is decided now will shape the outcome. Some spend years evading this reality, keeping busy, distracted, and focused on comfort rather than truth. But there comes a point when avoidance fails. The distractions fade, the unease grows too persistent to ignore, and the question is no longer whether a response is required. It becomes, what will that response be? Many will continue to delay. They recognize the truth, feel its weight, yet convince themselves that there is still time. The moment does not feel urgent enough, the risk not immediate, and the task too daunting. But delay is a pattern, it feeds itself. Habits form, and what once felt manageable grows rigid and resistant to change. Delay may feel harmless in the present, but over time, it transforms into inertia, habit, and ultimately a direction in life that is increasingly difficult to reverse. Others, however, respond differently. They recognize that discomfort is not a problem to escape, but a signal to heed. The unease is a guide, a divine nudge indicating that attention and action are required. Transformation begins not in perfection, but in willingness. The willingness to stop running, to stop delaying, and to take even a small step toward clarity. It is the courage to move in a new direction, to release what has held the soul captive, and to embrace the difficult yet necessary act of change. This step is rarely dramatic or immediately clear. It does not demand full understanding or instant certainty. It requires willingness to let go of familiar patterns, to face the unknown, and to embrace what is right even when uncomfortable. This moment of honesty, humility, and courage begins the restoration of direction. It is a personal decision, yet it has broader effects. One life redirected toward truth influences relationships, decisions, and contributions to the world around it. When enough hearts respond in this way, a collective restoration begins, gradual yet profound, mirroring the way neglect leads to disorder. The journey back to alignment always starts with choice. Each person must decide, individually and deliberately, whether to continue on the path of drift or to step toward clarity and truth. There is no neutral ground. Inaction is itself a choice, a continued movement along the trajectory of habit and distance from purpose. Over time, these choices shape not only the outcome of a life, but the condition of the soul. Clarity is essential because it removes the comfort of ignorance and reveals what is real. Once seen, truth cannot be unseen, and this revelation transforms everything that follows. The moment of clarity brings responsibility. Awareness alone is insufficient. Without intentional action, even the clearest truth loses its impact. Transformation requires steps that reflect internal decisions, a movement away from harmful patterns, a letting go of what is familiar but untrue, and a deliberate embrace of what restores. The familiar may feel comfortable, yet it may also carry the slow erosion of purpose, clarity, and confidence. The cost of inaction accumulates quietly, yet inexorably, until it becomes undeniable. Time continues to move forward, narrowing opportunities to respond. Moments pass, chances shift, and what is available now may not be available in the same way later. Yet, within this moment lies profound hope. The path back remains open. No matter how far someone has drifted, restoration is possible. But potential alone is not enough. It must be accepted, embraced, and acted upon. The decision to return, to realign, to step back toward what is true is not a single instant that solves everything. It is a journey, a deliberate series of choices that build momentum and restore clarity. Each choice, each step, weakens the grip of habits that once seemed unbreakable. Every action taken toward truth strengthens the ability to act rightly, deepening both conviction and purpose. Even small steps, when consistently taken, create powerful change, reshaping the path of a life and gradually restoring what was lost. Change is not effortless. It demands honesty, humility, and the willingness to confront discomfort. Facing the reality of one's life, acknowledging the patterns that have led astray, and accepting the challenge to move differently requires courage. The first step may feel uncertain, even intimidating, but it is the only way to begin the journey back. Transformation is not about perfection or immediate clarity. It is about intention, persistence, and a willingness to move forward despite the unknown. As one begins to respond to this call, the benefits extend beyond personal restoration. Alignment with truth brings stability to the inner life, creating clarity in decisions, purpose in actions, and direction in relationships. One person's commitment to follow a path of integrity influences those around them, shaping interactions, choices, and contributions to the wider world. The ripple effect of returning to truth is profound, even if subtle, gradually restoring balance in ways that might not be immediately visible but are deeply impactful. Yet, the journey is not without challenges. Familiar patterns resist change. Comfort with what is known can make even harmful habits feel safe. The mind and heart may resist the discomfort of stepping into the unfamiliar. Each step toward truth requires vigilance, perseverance, and continual recommitment. Yet, in every challenge lies opportunity. With each choice to act rightly, the power of old habits diminishes, and the capacity for clarity, purpose, and freedom grows. Ignoring the invitation, by contrast, has consequences. Delay and inaction allow drift to continue, creating distance from truth that becomes harder to bridge over time. Habits solidify, patterns strengthen, and what once seemed manageable grows increasingly rigid. The opportunity for renewal diminishes, and the cost of returning later grows greater. What could have been addressed with a small effort now demands much more. In some cases, the consequences may no longer be avoidable, leaving only the work of restoration after damage has been done. The urgency of the moment cannot be overstated. Time moves steadily forward, unaffected by hesitation, distraction, or denial. Opportunities are fleeting. Moments once past may never return in the same form. This is why the invitation matters so deeply. It is not a fleeting suggestion, nor a gentle encouragement. It is a decisive moment, a call to action, and a chance for restoration that exists only in the present. Responding aligns one with truth, reconnects the soul to purpose, and reclaims what has been lost. Failing to respond allows drift to continue, distances to widen, and patterns to solidify, shaping a trajectory that becomes increasingly difficult to reverse. At the heart of this invitation lies hope. No matter how far someone has strayed, the path back remains open. Potential alone is insufficient.